Everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Just Talk podcast with me, Tim Chase. And I'm very excited about this guest. I have lots of questions to ask him, and I'll let him do an intro about who he is and why I'm so excited about it. But yeah, my mate Samu's joined us on the podcast today. So Samu, good to see you, mate.
Good to see you, Tim. Thanks for having me. And hello,
No
everyone.
worries at all, man.
Hello.
So yeah, why don't you tell us why I'm so excited? What it is that you do for a living?
Cool. So I'm a football agent or a FIFA agent, an entrepreneur as well. That's my background. Especially in the last 6-7 years, I've been focusing a lot on football. Born in the UK, grew up in Sardinia, Italy, and then moved back to London 12 years ago. So now I'm a football agent at Entourage Sports, and yeah, so I'm excited to be on the podcast.
Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
So the first important question: why did you leave Sardinia to come back to the UK?
It's a very good question. It's a very good question, but Sardinia is amazing. I go back there like 2, 3, 4 times a year. I love it. I've got family, friends there. Just at 26 years old, once I got to 26 years old, Sardinia, it's an island. So I felt like, not that I've done it all there, but it was, opportunities. It's an incredible lifestyle, but when it comes to business, and again, I had a dream to work in football, and there's only one Serie A club in Sardinia, Cagliari, and of course all the opportunities, especially in this field and in this industry, are very limited. After a trip to London, a trip to New York, I kind of said, like, this is more like the pace, the environment, the opportunities. This is more my thing. So I really wanted to try and at least put myself in a situation where I could actually understand what my value was, what I could bring to the table, and just go for it.
Fair answer, I suppose. It's a beautiful island. But I guess it's more of a holiday place rather than a living place. It gets quite, if you're a young person with that entrepreneurial spirit, you'll probably get frustrated with the holiday lifestyle or the quiet lifestyle rather than get excited by it.
Yeah. It's an incredible lifestyle. And again, even maybe, when you're very young, or if you retire, even people my age, I'm 37, and it's a good way of living. And someone might argue that it's, far more better than being in a busy city.
That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem is sometimes, I mean, I like to listen to myself quite a lot, and I don't like to complain. I try to never complain, and I lived Sardinia at the best until I was there. The moment I started to kind of see a few things and feel like it wasn't the right, I wanted more, basically. That's when I just didn't want to stay there and complain. We put me and my girlfriend Marika, we put everything in our car. We done the trip, like the old style trip, going across Europe, and we just wanted to go back to Sardinia often with a smile, instead of just being there and being miserable about it. So so that's
if you live there, you take it for granted a little bit, don't you? You don't appreciate, and when you go back, you appreciate it so much more. Go, wow, this is such a lovely place to be brought up. You appreciate it much more.
That's a good
right?
point. It's a very good point. Like, I have friends that, my town, we are like literally 6 minutes from the beach by car, and no traffic. So literally 6 minutes. And there's people like in the entire summer that might go 3-4 times to the beach, where now when I go there for a month, I'm literally every day on the beach to live and try to have the best of Sardinia while I'm there. So I definitely try to have the best of London and have the best of Sardinia in a certain way.
Mix.
This episode of Just Start is powered by Alloy Collectors. Football fans, it's time to level up your merch. Alloy Collectors transforms football jerseys into premium metal collectibles, because true fans deserve more than just another scarf or mug. Get 50% off with code JUSTSTART and grab a limited edition Just Start X Alloys tee. Plus, score a chance to attend a private exclusive event with some of the biggest names in UK football.
So before I start grilling you with all the questions I've written down, I think everyone will hear about a football agent. So how did it all start? When did you sort of feel that the urge? You said you always wanted a career in football. Did you kind of try and become a player, and then you reverted? Tell us through the background of how it started.
Yeah. So, well, Football absolutely has always been my biggest passion. I started playing when I was 6, got to semi-pro. In the moment, I kind of understood I was not going to make it. I reverted a little bit back on my second big passion, which is entrepreneurial journey, setting up businesses and selling. So I've done a lot of that as well, and I've started my own company. And after a few years, football was always gravitating around me in terms of like I was always trying to do things around football, and the dream to become a football agent, again, that started in Sardinia, but as I said, the opportunities were very limited. And basically I started to, once I was kind of like 6-7 years in with my own company, that it was in a completely different sector, but I was starting to do things with footballers as well, starting to help footballers. And that's when I kind of realized that the football agent journey is maybe the closest thing that combines the football and the business side of things, or at least one of them. It was a dream at the beginning, of course. Then when I moved to London, I started to help more players. I had a social media agency. We started to help players on their social media, with their social media legends, former Serie A legends. And that's when I kind of seen how I was helping them, how much help they needed, because they, footballers have an incredible life, but sometimes they get thrown into this bubble, and they need support in many different areas. And some footballers have good people around them or good families that can help them, but there's quite a few that actually they really don't know who to rely on and how to get help. So that's the first time I kind of been in London, in 2014, 15. I was like, this can actually, before it was limited because I was in Sardinia, but now this is actually something that I can really go for. It's something I could see it's reachable. And I've just started going to under 18s matches, under 21s and matches, and trying to starting from the scouting point of view, even if I've never become a scout, but that was my first intro to the game. And then because of how I was helping footballers already with the social media, with the marketing, with some brands, that's when more players started to kind of rely on me and my services to help them navigate all these new things, because even the commercial and the marketing side of it was kind of new when in 2013, 14, players didn't have Instagram and all these kind of things. So
Was it
that
easier when
my
they didn't have
intro.
social media like Instagram and things? Was it a much easier job being a football agent if they didn't have those things?
Yeah, at that time. So at that time, I wasn't an agent yet. I wasn't an agent yet. I needed to. I still needed to do my licenses, and I still needed to find, because what I would say is getting into the business, that is very, very difficult. I think very challenging, because it's a closed world, and the agencies, becoming a football agent is something that I think quite a few people try to do or would like to do, and the agencies are not that there is not that many opportunities in terms of they won't just go and hire somebody to become an agent. So you kind of have to I always say there's not a script, or there's not a pathway, a specific pathway to become an agent. Yes, there is the license part where you study, you get the license, but then this is where a lot of people I think get confused as well. Having the license doesn't necessarily make you an agent or get you a job, especially now since the FIFA rules, the new FIFA rules. A lot of people is studying for the exam, then they get the license, and then that's when a lot of people don't start to realize that basically there's a lot more to it, and they can't really get into an agency, they can't get a job. And yeah, it's a challenge at the beginning. That's what I receive a lot of questions and a lot of DMs about this part of entering
I guess it's like, just because you
world.
pass your driving test doesn't mean you're going to get a car. So what does that, before I start going on, there's so many questions that bounce around my head now. So what do you have to do to get your FIFA license? Is it exams? Is it kind of can you talk to us about that?
Yes. So it all changed. Before it was there was an exam prior to 2005, I think. Then I think it was, not sure now if it was 2005 or 2015, but then they changed it. And for 6-7 years, you could actually just register and get the FA intermediary registration without an exam and literally be an agent. And then in 2023, FIFA kind of changed things completely again and reintroduced the exam. So yeah, to have the license, you have to study, and there were 2 exams per year initially, and now they actually changed it to 1 exam per year, and it is a little bit difficult in terms of, it's not an easy exam where you study and you're 100% sure you'll pass, because there's tricky questions. There's a few questions that can, starting from the manual, it's 700 pages. There's a lot more to just knowing, how a transfer works. But yeah, you do the exam. It's an hour. I think you can do 4 mistakes if I'm not wrong. You can get 4 questions wrong out of 30. I think that the average pass rate was something around 46%. So that is not an easy one. But then you get the license and you can operate. There's still a few things that are, like, for example, in Italy, you need a different license. FIFA tried to regulate to make it one unique license for everywhere. But then, of course, there's been a few nations that started to go against that and say, like, no, if you want to do it in our country, you need to have our license. And that's why you still need to operate in Italy. For example, a lot of FIFA agents will collaborate with agents in Italy.
Right.
They have the FIGC, it's called, and CONI.
Okay.
That's how they do
Interesting
it.
stuff. Right, I'm already fascinated. So you mentioned it before about you got into it by scouting younger players. Talk me through how you would go through signing a new player. So what's the kind of journey like? Do you kind of see them on socials and then you go through and kind of get an interest? What's the first stage of going, right, this is someone we should take a notice of?
Yeah, even here, there's many different ways. So I think it depends a lot on what's your purpose and what's your target and who you're working for. Because are you in an agency that tries to sign everyone, tries to sign as many players as possible? When I entered this kind of industry, I wanted to do things a little bit differently, and I've noticed, again, every agency has their own way of doing things, but I just didn't want to sign many players. I didn't want to end up having 30-40 players and then I didn't even speak to them or didn't really help them develop or I couldn't make an impact in their journey. So that's why this is, to try to answer your question, is when I'm not scouting, but when I'm looking at the players that I'm interested in, and when I try to sign a player, there's been a process there, there's been a thought behind it. And again, because I don't want to sign too many, I want to try to go for an eye at, a better type of player in terms of quality, in terms of potential. But then it comes down a lot of things. So you can find out about a player on many different ways, on watching a match or on socials or on newspapers or people talking about that player. Normally when people are talking about that player is already a little bit too late. There's a lot of people that already would be on it. So watching the matches, I think, is the best thing. I mean, when you watch, under 18 team or in Italy, like I do, or in the UK, that's when you really get an idea of who you like, which player would you like to sign, why, how is that player. And again, for me, it's very important that, yes, the stats, it's good to check the stats, it's good to get information from scouts and people, but at the end of the day, you're going to be representing that player, and I want to really have my own idea and make my mind up, and really I really need to like that player to sign that player. That's always been throughout my journey, even with the businesses and in sales. Like, you won't find me selling something that I don't really believe in, and because I just won't be able to sell it. So at the beginning of the journey, I just made a decision that the end goal is not just selling everything. So that I've applied the same thing to the players. I just want to represent the ones that I really believe in.
So how close is the relationship with a player and an agent? Is you like best mate? Well, maybe not best friends, but maybe more professional. But how close are you in terms of the relationship?
Yeah, because of what I said, in terms of I don't want too many. I really like to have a very close and strong relationship with my players. You said best mates. I wouldn't, it depends on the player as well. I would say, in terms of like, there are some players that need that and want that. There are other players that actually want to keep the
Strictly
things a
business
little
kind of
bit
thing.
separate.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think it's important to, first of all, know the player and understand what he wants. What every player is different. There is a player that needs 10 phone calls a day, and there is a player that needs 2 phone calls a week. And if you do more than that, he will get annoyed. So knowing the player is really important. But on a general kind of idea, at least for myself, I want to have a very good relationship and very close relationship with that player, because that's when I know how he is. That's when I know how I can help him. How we, especially again, at Entourage, the agency I'm working now, we try to operate as a group more than, yes, I'm the agent, I'm the registered agent, but I wouldn't be able to do everything on my own. So I need people to help me, support me, and we have great people, guys that are pros in what they do, whether it's a coach, our striker coach, our S&C coach, our match analyst, or even the Finn that works with me and helps me with connecting with the players constantly. So I want that sort of relationship, be quite
Can you
close
tell
with the
us the
player.
sort of, obviously you don't have to mention any players unless you wanted to, but just so people understand the sort of level you're kind of working at, maybe you can talk about the clubs you're working with, or you currently got players at?
Yeah. So at the moment, we focus a lot on the younger players and mandates on players in Serie A, Premier League. So that's the sort of level. So in terms of younger players, we would be looking at Cat 1s mainly. Sometimes, even Cat 2 players, or players in Primavera in Italy, which are the Serie A clubs. And I focus a lot on England and Italy because of my background, because of
So language helps as
because
well,
of the
right?
languages I speak. Yeah, absolutely. So some of the players, Andre Anus at Arsenal, which is a very good player that a lot of people now is discovering. Aiden Harris, the goalkeeper, under 21s goalkeeper at Newcastle. We have Samuel Da, a striker at Lens, under 23s, very good striker. Gianmarco Di Biase at Juventus, Andrea Pibiri at Cagliari. So we have a mix.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave anybody out, but Demi at Everton and Neo at Northampton. So we have that's the kind of level in terms of younger players. Then of course we work with Serie A players and Premier League players, depending on the moment. We will have mandates, for example, during the transfers in January and in the summer. We add, and we always have like mandates for Serie A players or players wanting to come to the Premier League, and vice versa. On sometimes we are behind a transfer, and because that player is not signed to us, but we still help that agency or that club sign that player. Can't really, we can't be the face of it, but we still are in that deal. Entourage has a very, very strong commercial department and talent department. There's quite a lot of work that we do there as well, in terms of with like Guglielmo Vicario at Tottenham for all his commercial deals, and then of course the ones that are not playing anymore, like Roberto Carlos and Modric, Gilberto Silva, or Modric that is still playing. So there is a mix of former legends and legends that are still playing the game.
Nice. So you said mandate in there. Does the mandate come from another agent saying, I've got this player at Club X and he wants to move to London or to the UK? Or is it the other way around, where a club comes to you and go, right, we need a striker and we need 20 goals a season, they've got to be under this age? Can you go into a bit more detail about this mandate? Just so you know, this
Absolutely.
is the quietest.
It's both
the quietest
the
I've
answer
ever been
to
on a
that.
podcast, by the way, because I'm just listening.
That's because
No, not at all, mate. I'm just listening,
too much.
fascinated.
I mean, to answer your question, definitely both. Like, it depends. So, the agency, the player's agency can, of course, give you the mandate because you have noticed that that player has an opportunity in a market that you're really strong in, and there's no. I'm starting from myself. I just don't have the possibility to deal with every single club out there in Europe or in maybe so if an agency from Spain, for example, contacts me and sees an opportunity on one of my players for, I don't know, a club that I don't deal with in Spain, that's when it's an opportunity for both to you need to do some checks on the agencies if they're serious, because especially I think we're going to touch a little bit on that as well. At this moment in time, it's crazy and wild with social media, with LinkedIn. Like, everybody's just putting information out there. I'm an agent, and then there's a lot of scams or not agents doing all sorts. So we'll definitely get to that. Having said that, mandates, yeah, both from the agent and from the clubs, because if you have a strong relationship with the club and you know the sporting director, you normally know what sort of positions they're looking for. Then if the target is kind of aligned, if you can recommend a player because you notice that player is good for them, that's when you can potentially get a mandate from a club. We've done.
Okay. So, and when the club gives you a mandate, do they say, we're just looking for a striker, come and impress us with some strikers? Or do they go, we want this player? I guess, is it the higher up you get where they go, we want Ronaldo? They're going to get Ronaldo.
Yeah, so normally, a club won't. I mean, normally they don't give you a mandate for the entire, like, because they're looking for a striker. They will still keep it open to deal with multiple agents. What they would do though is, if for example club A is looking for a striker, and you notice that striker in Italy is very good and is a very good fit for that club, what you can do is, if you have a good relationship with the club, is like, we have the opportunity to get this player to the table, and we think is a very good fit for you. That's when the club might do you a mandate for that specific player to show, and sometimes it's not even a mandate, sometimes it's like a letter of interest, and to show, again, because if the player is not signed to you, you still want to show that you're serious about things and you don't want to waste anybody's time. So when a player is not signed to me or to our agency, personally, I only work with mandates, because of course you can understand the interest and you can talk about a few things, but you definitely don't want to be one of those agents pitching and trying to hook people up just with fake opportunities, and then nothing happens. You'll be out of the industry very soon, or out of business very soon. So that's why I just operate with mandates. You won't find me selling a player or pitching a player that I'm not fully in control
I guess
of, or I don't
your
have a
reputation
mandate.
is key in this industry, right? Your reputation says that it's hard to earn and really easy to lose.
Is one of the most important things, and I like that you touched on that, because I think a lot of people they rush into things in this industry, and I get it. It's an industry where sometimes, again, agencies will hire you, won't give you a salary, will just give you a commission, and that's when people will start trying to force things or force a move. Again, I think I was lucky enough to understand and be in business in another industry for kind of like 6, 7, 8 years before working in the football industry, because there's so many things I've learned, even if it was a different sector, there's so many things I've learned there. And this was, being patient was definitely one of them, because when I then started in football, I just knew I needed to take the right steps, but do it in with the right time frame. And I'm still doing it.
I'm learning as I get older. The patience is the key to all happiness. And no, Rome wasn't built in a day, and it's just patience is the key.
Yeah, somebody might say it's the common, like, it's normal sentences, but it's very difficult to then put it in practice.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's the trick. When you have a player at a Premier League club, and the opportunity to move him is there, or even to renew his contract and to get more money, and that's when, yes, it's only a sentence, but that's when you really understand if you're able to apply that, and
Yeah.
who you are and how you do things. Because I've been quite a few times in the position where I could have get more, push for more, do the transfer. But I just knew it wasn't the right thing for the player. It wasn't the right club for the player. And not taking that commission that summer or that January, it meant for me that it would have worked out even better later on, or maybe not, but still I've made the right decision and the right choice for the player.
Well, that actually brings me on to my first question that I wrote down at 3 o'clock this morning. So, how much influence does an agent actually have over where a player signs? Is it ultimately the player's decision? Obviously, of course, it's ultimately the player's decision, but how much actual influence do you have on that decision?
Great question. Great question. And I go back to the relationship you build with the player. I feel an agent has a lot of influence, but of course the player is key. The player will decide in the end, and the player will say yes or no. But it's more than an influence in terms of this is a good opportunity, sign here or let's do it. More than that is if you build that sort of relationship with your player, you know what your player is looking for, what your player wants in terms of, because it's not only football, that's the main part, but then there's family, there's kids, there's lifestyle, what city, what is he looking in that moment in time? Is he looking for a long contract or for a higher salary, or what is important to him at that moment? So that's where I feel that you can influence him in a good way. Influence, it might sound to the fans out there, it might sound like, oh, you only influence him to get the biggest paycheck and stuff like that. But actually is like, sometimes it can be the opposite. Sometimes, there could be the big club knocking at the door, and even just by like, are you sure this is the right move? Because again, I can't decide for them. I won't decide for them. But what I will do is put everything on the table and try to live that journey together in terms of showing what could happen, what will happen, what can potentially go right or wrong. And again, with football, as we know, there's no, you don't really know, and you can't be really sure about things. But that's where I feel working with a lot of legends and a lot of pros and a lot of people that I've been in the industry for many years and have great experience. That's where that part is really important and comes in as well. Because if we're working on, as I said, players like Roberto Carlos, and he's been there, done it, seen every kind of good and bad deal or good and bad move. There's no, again, still, he might be right or wrong about things, but having that sort of voice as well and listening to that sort of experience can definitely help myself, can help my player. But in the end, if you really know the player, I think you can together understand what is the best move.
So how important do you think money is in when they're players are factoring the deal? Is it actually, because I think outside looking in, we think that players just go wherever they can just to get the most money. Is that actually real? Or is it actually money is not even the first thing they look at?
Well, it's a very simple answer. This question is a very simple answer, and it's just think about the same thing applied to our day-to-day jobs and everybody's kind of journey in businesses or working as employees. Like, do they just go and do sort of anything for that extra £1, £2, whatever it is? Do they do that? Not really, because there's a lot more to consider. Then, of course, there are moments in life and in their careers which money is a big thing, and when, depending on the offers as well and the situations and what the market is, that's what they're going to focus on. But that's all down to, again, to the player, because you'll have a player, we all done it, we've seen a transfer from one of the best leagues in the world to in a so-called new league, without mentioning players. Or a good example is maybe going quite a bit back. I'm thinking about David Beckham's move to the MLS. When that happened, there's been, I just remember there was a lot of people not understanding and criticizing that move because he had already money, because he was at Real Madrid, because of many things. What people don't factor in is many other things like age, what moment in your career that move comes. Yes, how much money, but how many other moves you will have, and how many opportunities you will have to go and build your personal brand in America, for example, in David Beckham's case. But not only that, after 10, 15 years, we discovered there was more to that move in terms of him being able to buy Miami, franchise at a great price. Then he brings in Messi, and all of a sudden, that is the best move in the world. Like 20 years ago, it wasn't. Not many people out there giving a thumbs up to that move, and that's now things have changed. So that's why. No, it's not only money. We know, of course, that it's footballers are in it for the money as well, and some will argue like only for the money, because there's players playing the game that they don't like the game, but they're like, they do it for the money, and that's fine. It's business, it's the market. So I'm not going to be here the one saying no, the money doesn't count and all of that, because it's not true. But what I would like people to reflect on and fans to reflect on is that, it's not only that. That plays a big part, depending, as I said, on the things, on the age, on the moment, on the family. But money will play a big part.
Yeah, like you say, it's the other opportunities.
Players.
Beckham was a great example. I didn't really see where you were going with it until I remembered, oh yeah, he actually had the option to then buy into Miami when they were there, and you're like, oh wow, that's a great move.
Yeah. And 20 years ago, with like the MLS wasn't what the MLS is now before Beckham got there. So even with that option, people would still think it wasn't a great move. But that's where having people around you that know the industry, that know business, and that know the agent. When we go back to the influence, is not only the influence, or is not mainly the influence, but it's more like the experience of having people and having helped people that have done it already, and highlight, sharing with you the different type of opportunities and situations that a player in that moment is maybe not looking at. The money side of things is a good point in terms of like, oh, everybody can look at that figure and can decide on that figure, but then have you considered the style of play, the manager? Will you still be called up for your international club based on that move? So an agent that knows the game, that has done it, and that has other people around him that can support him, will try to help you in all these different considerations as well.
I'm just fascinated every answer you give. What's the one big thing about transfers that fans don't really get? Or is there a myth that you can burst that actually this isn't true? What's the one big... Is there a big myth or something that fans don't really understand about the process of a transfer?
I think nowadays fans are super clued up with the news, with social media. I think prior to social media, people would not really understand a lot of things, starting from myself before entering the industry. What I would say though, having been in those offices, I think from the outside, fans and people will think that the football industry, the people in those offices and the people making those decisions, I think fans will think it's a lot more complicated or sophisticated, or that there is a lot more. I don't know, from the outside I thought it was more professional as well. I'm not saying it's not professional, but I just find it, sometimes, and again, it's such a big world and there's so many things to know and to understand that sometimes, I have great relationships with sporting directors and, people at the club, but sometimes even they struggle with keeping up with all the information, with what's going on. So sometimes it's a lot more simple, and it's a lot more like, we need a striker, we like that striker, let's get things done. And then people get along and they don't even know what's going to happen, and they react to. So from the outside, I think you'll think it's a lot more like in the in a bank or a financial kind of industry, where it's a lot.
I was talking to
different
someone
from
at one of
that.
the top Premier League clubs, and they always said you'll be shocked at transfers. I was like, go on, give me an example. He went, our transfers are still done via fax machine. I was like, you just bought a player for 100 million. Are you telling me that player was bought from the fax machine? The contract was sent via fax machine. He went, yep. I was going, what on earth? And he said, on transfer day, there's so many fax machines. There's so many fax machines set up around the stadium.
Yeah, things like that, or things like players not knowing about their own transfer, like players, getting the news from Sky Sports more than, because the agent is still on the phone trying to sort things out. And one thing I did, I won't mention the name, but I literally seen one player signing putting pen to paper, the pen didn't even leave, didn't even finish his name, and the
No
tweet
way.
was already there. And I was like, this is impossible. I said, this is not from the club, but from
Another source close to the player.
people, from journalists. And yeah. And I was shocked. I wanted to say well done to him, because it was impossible. I don't even know, even with a camera in the office, it would have been, so it's incredible how much news people now get. I wasn't able to inform my colleagues at the office, and they already found out from social media. It was like, it's done, official. And I'm like,
mad.
Crazy.
So that kind of brings, that's the kind of, not the positive side of things, but when they're signing someone new. But how do players sort of generally feel when they find out their club is trying to sell them? And how does that work? Do they find it a similar way, that they're kind of being sold, or do they actually get sort of sat down in front of the gaffer and said, look,
Absolutely.
you ain't the right fit?
There's many different ways, and clubs deal with it in different ways. So I think players will, once they get to that level, they have been already used to that kind of situation, because some of them might have been released from an academy, some of them might not be renewed or extended in their first contracts. The player, normally you find out very soon what sort of industry you're in, and how brutal this industry can be. And we all know, you're the most loved person and most loved player when everything is going well, and the minute the spotlight goes off, or you're having a bad moment, all of a sudden people sometimes don't even say hello, or they don't deal with you. They don't want to deal with you. So it is kind of brutal. And I think that's one of the things that even fans, again, talking about fans not considering things, is we forget sometimes the human side, and that is not only a player. Is, yes, they have a great lifestyle, they get a lot of money, but there is a human behind it. And sometimes we think, even with social media, like, there's so many comments, and you think like players don't read it. And the reality is, guys, they read those comments, and they have a family. If they don't read it, they have a partner, mom, a dad, a brother, and it's just we do tend to forget a little bit sometimes about that
true,
human side.
Yeah. So on that note, is there rules, because obviously social media is so negative, well, not negative, but abusive? I think it's okay if you're criticised in the right way. If you have a bad game, I think there's a way you can be criticised and saying, look, there wasn't a great game today. You go, do you know what? I'm going through a divorce. And you go, do you know what? I've been through a divorce. I can understand why you had an off day. But is there rules like where players can't, I know that some clubs have that they can't post on social media sort of 24 hours before a game or 48 hours before the game. I think the England team is one, and I think Man U's another. Is there, like, during the game day, are they like their phones taken from them? Are they allowed to use their phones in the changing room just before kickoff? What's the sort of thoughts behind social?
Yeah. So there's the rules, depend on the clubs. But what I would say is that normally when players get to that sort of level, Serie A, Serie B, Championship, Premier League, they are kind of professional, and they do act, not everyone of course, but they do act. There's kind of not written rules that normally you would like to follow. Now sometimes I had the chat with some of our players as well, like recently, because the younger ones, posting, a story about being in the team, in the starting 11, and that means you've done it less than an hour before the match, and that, we as an agency and as an agent, I just need to, even small details like that is, yes, now it's fine because you're still young, but club will be looking at that, will pick up on that, and you really need to try to be as professional as possible in every single detail. So sometimes now it's changed as well a little bit, because a lot of players have helped with their social media, so maybe the account is managed. But still, if I'm managing, not me personally, but if my agency is managing a Premier League player's account, there is things that we know and that we will do and we won't do. And one of those is like, any 5, 6, 7 hours before the game, there's no posting, like there's no social media. On 24 hours before or 12 hours before, you can post the kind of graphic, the match day. That's the maximum that you'll get to. And then no comments, of course, because it's very simple. Like, fans, you need to, it's a kind of respect, I think, as well, in terms of depending on the result. If you go there and you never know with football, if you go in, you have a bad day, you have a bad result, and the fans then go on Instagram or Twitter, they see that's what you've been focused on for the last 3, 4, 5 hours. Sometimes it's not correlated, but that's the first thing they will think about and they will say. So it's more like general things for yourself as well as a player, to make sure you avoid things. Then of course, if you have a good result, then that's when you can take it as you want. There's players that'll still kind of like take it easy. There's players that go a little bit more aggressive on it, but that's more you've won. So fans normally like that, and they will take whatever after 3 points
in the game, and you can post what you want. Nice. I wanted to switch the topic of the questions to be more around the parent side of things. I think we've got really unique access to you. I'm a father of a 12-year-old who loves his football, and I've got some really talented kids sort of around his team and things. What age should a parent sort of consider that actually maybe my son or daughter has the ability to sort of go pro here? When is the kind of like, if you haven't made it by this time, you maybe are, or when is it that they should really go, right, let's knuckle down here and put some serious work in, because you might have a chance?
So first of all, because as agents we are not allowed to sign players under 16, so anything under 16, from under 8 to under 16, I'm not really the best to answer that question. When I don't know something, I like to say I don't know something. So in this case, for example, from age 7, 8, 9, 10, I don't really know what is the cutoff, or what is the time. What I've seen from my experience, is that it's never kind of too late. Of course, if you're 17 or 18 and you haven't played football, never played football, I would say that is a little bit too late to try to dream to become a pro. But I've seen players in non-league at 21. Well, we all seen them in 21, 22, 23, 26, and still make it to Serie A or Premier League, and Jamie Vardy and many others. So that's where I think it's very important for parents to understand that, because it's very easy for a parent to put a lot of pressure and go by these, time frames, or thinking it's too late, and that's what you really want to avoid. So I see players going in very early, and parents think they made it, and then by the time they're 12, 13, 14, they're already fed up with it, and they can't handle that sort of pressure, and they don't want to be in football anymore. So there's no right age. What I would say is the most important thing is that the player is developing, so he's becoming better and better, B, enjoying it, and C, the other thing I think is a little bit is I see a lot of parents turning down opportunities, like a club will come and they will turn it down. Turning it down, I think it can be a little bit of a tricky thing, because yes, if he's good, I know he will get other options and other opportunities. But even so, sometimes you don't have a lot of, there's not going to be a lot of requests or clubs coming back for you a lot of times. So give him the opportunity to your son, if he's a good player, to at least being seen by a club or by an academy. It's always a good thing.
Like you said, you can't deal with anything under 16. At the moment, you can deal with them when they turn 16. What are some of the mistakes that parents do make when they're trying to sort of get their agent, or trying to get them in the academy, or pre-pros, or whatever it is, pro contract? As you can tell, I'm not a football agent. And trying to sign their kids getting signed, or think their kids are getting signed. What's some of the mistakes that actually parents do that you wish you could tell them not to?
Right. So there's a few, but what I would say is, the pressure thing is definitely one of them. The pressure thing is something that I literally seen players not enjoy it anymore because of the pressure of the family. I just could feel it. I just could see it. I would just see, like, clubs making offers to him, opportunities that he could really go for it, and he just didn't want it. He just doesn't want it anymore, and he just doesn't enjoy it. And that is something that, again, and I think families will struggle to recognize that, or to realize that, or to admit that. So that is my biggest thing, the pressure from the family. You'll literally see situations where it's the family that wants it more than the player. And for me, that is really the biggest mistake. Second one is the family wanting to help the player too much, which sometimes leads into a parent coaching the player, a player, a parent trying to guide him on the, and now I get it. It's your son. You really want to help him, but what they ignore sometimes is that, there's even to be a coach, you have to know certain things. You have to have a license. There's a way for
There's a little bit
B,
of training got
way for
involved.
A.
They didn't pick him
I'm
out of
not
the
a
pub.
coach. There's a little bit of training, and not only, absolutely, I'm not only that. Sometimes is you think you're helping him because you know that you've seen Bellingham do that on TV, and he should do that movement. But then the coach actually asked him something different in that game. So you started to give him contradictory information. The player goes on the pitch. Am I listening to the coach? Am I listening to my mom, to my dad, to my friend, to my brother? So that's where, again, that's a big mistake that I see quite often. Doesn't mean you can't have a football chat with your son or with your daughter, or try to figure out things, or how to help him, give him your tip on the game. But when it turns into dissecting movements and giving him information, and I've seen a lot of that's when it can become really detrimental. And I get it comes from a good place, but I feel it's a mistake. And then the third one, I would say, from an agency point of view, is I still feel that families sometimes go with an agency or with an agent too much based on their name, on the name on the name wall, or based on the fact that they represent the biggest player in the Premier League at the moment. What they sometimes don't ask, and I would really like them to ask more, is how much time do you, Samu, have for my player? How many players do you have? If you have 50 players, how can you spend time with my son, call him and make sure the club is, in line, and you're in line with the club? And that's what I would like parents to ask more, together with what's your background, how are you outside of football, what you've done in the past, because again, this is somebody representing your son and your player and the player. I'm not saying, I'm the best one out there, or, but I've seen situations where players are represented by people with no licenses, people that they're not really figured it out in their kind of life as well. And my question is, how can you represent somebody if you really haven't, if you're not, if you're in a little bit of a mess yourself, let's say. So, and I'm quite brutal and honest in that sense, because I feel sometimes, yes, you do find the families that will do that background check and ask questions, but sometimes because they see the name on the wall, or because somebody recommended the agent, or a friend, or they don't go too deep on what they should go,
I
before
guess it's a
making that sort of decision.
lack of experience, right? Not everyone has a child that is a Premier League star or anything, so they just try to do their best, and they go, what's the biggest name in football agency? Oh, or who represents Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi or whoever, or whatever players, and they look for the name rather than actually the duty of care and the service they're going to receive. So it's interesting to think about that. I hadn't thought about it like that. Great point.
Yeah. Even just what will your agency do for my son, for my player? Do you just sign him and then discuss contracts with the clubs? Do you have coaches in house? Do you have analysis guys in house? Who is he? Is he does he work at a club? Is he a professional one, or is it somebody that just started? Like all these stuff. I know. It's always a first time for a parent normally. So he's been, he really doesn't know what type of questions to ask, and it's not easy for them because they get bombarded from right, left, and centre with agents, with names. And the last one I would put in there is falling for the promises, of like, sign with us, we'll get your player here and there, which I want to make it clear, like, the only The only person that can get you the move is yourself on the pitch. You as a player, that's the only person that can get you the move. Then do we have contacts at Barcelona, Real Madrid, Inter, Juventus, Arsenal to do so? Yes, we have. But do I really want to put you in one of those clubs because I have friends there or colleagues there, and the manager and the sporting director doesn't really want you? What will you do? Be sat in the stadium watching matches? Don't think that will be good for your kind of career. So these are the things, like falling for promises like that. I just feel that that's another kind of mistake.
Yeah.
I
We
see
mentioned
often.
it earlier. What are the biggest scams when it comes into either football or agencies that you see people sort of falling for time and time again that you wanted to shout about?
Yeah, I would say one. I would say one here to make it easier, and it's trials. I would like just everyone that's listening and watching to please know and understand that please don't pay for trials. So that's a big scam. I think at the moment is going on online. So they will start selling you. You know, an agent will call you up and will say, oh, you know, there's a few clubs that we are close to and they are interested, just, you know, with £1,000 or £2,000, we'll get you there. Then, you know, you plus the tickets, you go there, you trial, and there's a big opportunity they will sign you. And there's nothing like it. There's no such thing. If a club is interested, they will invite you in for a trial with at zero cost. You can pay for the flights yourself. Most clubs will pay for the flights if they are really serious about it, or for the trains. But there's no such thing like. Then it's different if you're talking about a camp, a performance, like you go in somewhere to, you know, to train to do better. That's different. You're doing it with professional coaches. That's different. But when agents are promising, you know, trials for a certain figure, please don't pay for trials, because it's one of the biggest scams at the
In
moment.
terms of the trial, how does the trial process work? Do you think it's a fair representation of a player? Because obviously it's a lot more pressure, but I guess if you're going to be a professional athlete, you're going to have to deal with pressure.
Absolutely. Well, that was you said it all there. In terms of, we know a trial is, there can be pressure, it can be a situation where you're not at your best and you're not performing. But the reality is, normally, first of all, trials, a club has an idea of you already. Sometimes they've seen you somewhere, they watch the match, they watch the video pack, so they have an idea of who you are as a player. Then the trial, they want to see it in person and live. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But the most important thing when it comes down to trials, and I've put it in one of my YouTube videos, is how you are preparing for that trial. Like, have you at your peak, or are you at your best in terms of shape? Have you trained? Have you worked your socks off the week prior to that trial? When you go in, are you presenting yourself in a good manner, in a good way? Because don't forget, yes, they are trialing you as a player, but the person and the attitude aspects will be a big part of it as well. There's players that go into trials that don't even say hello to the coach or to the team to send, and again, they might still get the trial, but why leave any sort of detail or any sort of option out there? Just make sure you ticked all the boxes, and even if it doesn't go well, you don't have to think about what you haven't done. You just move on to the next one and try to step up a level.
The following ones are a bit more light-hearted now, so the pressure's off a little bit. So one of my favourite stories in football is the Paul Gascoigne to Tottenham story. I don't know if you've heard of the contract negotiations about this, but I'll share it with you in case you haven't. So Spurs called him up and said, "Do you want to sign for Spurs?" And he went, "Maybe." And said, "We'll get you a house." He went, "Yeah, all right." And he was sitting next to his dad in his parents' house. And his dad said, "Who was that?" He goes, "Oh, Spurs want to sign me. They're going to buy me a house." And he went, "Fantastic. Can I have a car?" So they called up and says, "My dad said he wants a car, brand new BMW with a personalised number plate. If you give me that, I'll come and sign." They went, "Yeah, all right." So they went, "Yeah, okay, that's fine." And his sister heard about it and called him back and said, "Oh, here you going to Spurs and Dad's getting a car. Dad's getting a car. I want a sunbed." So Spurs had to buy Gaz's sister a sunbed. This leads me to what's the weirdest sort of things either players or clubs have asked to have during the contract negotiations? Is there anything you could think of that they'd insist on having?
Nice question. I don't know I mean, yeah, I've heard so many stories as well from my colleagues, and I've been in the ones I've been in. I don't know if it's because, tend now to do a lot of work prior to the contract and also we try to educate the player on what. One thing I would say is sometimes it's not the biggest moves. You'll think, that it's weird. Like you'll see, I've been in one where this was many years ago, where a player in Italy, it was a player without a club, and we had a few trials lined up, and we helped him, get a trial. They made an offer, great opportunity for him because he was without a club, and again he was in a phase of his life where he really needed to have an opportunity and show something. And the dad was a small contract because he was a younger player, and the dad was like questioning or wanting like if something very, very small. I can't remember if it was like a €50 bonus on something, or €100 difference in, where I was like, you understand you are putting everything at risk, but like there's a time, like in the Gascoigne situation, he was maybe in the best position and situation to demand things and to get more things. When you have no clubs opportunities and offers, and one is making one, it's not really the right moment to question 50 or €100 here and there and put everything at risk for that. But that's how, you talk about, you asked about crazy demands, and sometimes even a simple demand like that, there is a place and a moment for everything, and you need to understand that. And I guess that's where we come
Yeah,
in,
don't
and
ask for
we
that.
go,
Don't ask
no
for a
guys,
sandwich,
that's not.
sister. Have you ever to tell a player to turn down their dream job, their dream move? Have you ever sort of recommended them to turn it down?
The dream move, no, to be honest, because if it's a dream move, if it's a real dream move, then the player will go for it normally, and you can again put everything on the table if it's right or wrong. But the dream move, normally they don't turn that down. In terms of the job, no, I mean it's a tough industry, and but the reality is sometimes players also they understand that, and they learn that along the way. They stop like falling out of love with the game. Or the biggest mistake, what I would say here is, the biggest mistake is players getting to a certain age, even if it's like 20, 21, 22, and making that mistake of, oh, I'm a championship player, or I'm a League One player, and not accepting anything below, which then leads to them being out of the game for quite a while. And what they don't understand is, once you're out of the game, if clubs are not seeing you on the pitch, they won't offer you anything. So it's very rare that a player that's been not playing for 6 months or 12 months, a club will come in and will offer you from a championship or player Premier League level, get you back in or back up. If you think you're at that level, go to League Two and show it. Go to National League and show it. Go to Step 2 and show it, like Step 2 or Step 3. Like, the reality is, if you're really at that level, you'll maybe play 3, 4, 5 matches, and somebody will pick up on that straight away, and you'll go back up. If you don't want to go down because you think the football there, I hear a lot of, oh, the football there is not for me, or is not my style of football. It doesn't really matter. There's no such thing as your style of football. That's the game, that's the level. And if you want to go up the ladder, you need to show it. You need to demonstrate
I guess if you're not playing,
and
the phone stops ringing really
if you're
quickly.
not playing, absolutely. And that's where I think, again, the relationship is important with the player, because if we're working together, yes, we can be friends, we can go out, we can, but also you need to, at some stage, you need to listen to my advice as well. And on a few things, it doesn't mean I'm always right, and I don't want you to always follow what I'm saying, but there's a few things that are really important, and one of them is playing, game time. I can't help you if you refuse to play, if you want only championship and your current opportunities and offers are National League. Go to National League and show it and do it, and then I can help you get to the
What's
championship.
one thing that all footballers do that we wouldn't necessarily know, that we would have never expected?
One I've said earlier, read comments and reads.
Does that go for the same with newspapers as well?
And
Do they read the newspapers and comment on that?
newspapers nowadays, more like, I would say, more articles. I would say more articles, because newspapers is just like they maybe don't go out, they don't have the habit to go and buy the paper, but they will definitely read comments, read articles. One thing that you wouldn't think they are so connected between clubs. You see, oh, okay, now you see more in the tunnel or things like that, but there's actually, or you see it because of the national team, you see, oh, he's friends with him, even if it's two clubs that are quite rival, there's two different clubs there. But I see, like, again, even with Insta, is like a little bit huss, or, everyone with their mates, that it's literally like that. So you'll have players chatting with, player at Liverpool that's facing Real Madrid the next day. They are a lot more connected than what we think, and also they comment a lot more than what we think, in terms that they comment other players' moves, or other players, everything. They're just normal people, and that's what we think we tend to forget. We think they live in a bubble where they do in a certain way, but then they are just humans and they do what we do.
Normal boys. One thing I wanted to ask you, I saw your post, and I think we spoke about it on WhatsApp, your post last week or the week before on LinkedIn, and you posted about a lot of people, because you're very, very active as an agent on social media, which I think is brilliant, and I love your content. I've actually WhatsApped you quite a lot saying, mate, I love your video, because it's great to see
Thank you.
and that's what social media is for,
Thank you.
right? It's to see behind the scenes, pull back the curtain and see behind the scenes about what it is like for various different people. I think Football Agents is one of those lives that you think is all glitz and glamour, and you can see you watching in a freezing cold stadium and at a pitch in the middle of nowhere, scouting as a new player. And your comment, you said, the caption was, I was told not to do this from my last job, or something along those lines, and you've lost maybe 2 clients because you'll lose clients for it. You've lost maybe 2, but gained like 10 or 20. Talk me through, obviously the podcast is called Just Start. What is that kind of moment where you went, you know what, I think there's a pulling angle here on this social media thing. I'm going to give it a bit of a push and see what kind of comes from it.
Yeah, so it's a real story. And when I entered, first of all, I've always been very active on social media, like starting from Facebook. I've always shared my life and shared things, and I've always seen the power of it. Like, I used to see people react or act differently depending on how I was telling the story, instead of hearing the story from somebody else. Especially living in London, and then people in my own town in Sardinia, I've always been very honest and open, and it was a kind of way to stay connected with them, and then it become a little bit bigger. Again, I haven't got millions of followers, but I've always kind of shared my journey, and I have people following from all over the world since 2017-18. So I was already doing a bit of that. And when I've entered the football world, in the first, after becoming an agent, especially the first agency was like, Samuele agents are just, they don't post, they not open about things, they don't react, they are behind the scenes, behind the player, and in some way I get what they were saying. Again, especially me being new to the industry, there was that worry of posting the wrong thing or saying it the wrong way. So I put everything on pause for kind of like 3 years. And in that pause, I wasn't kind of happy. I was kind of like, this is not me. This is, I think I was entering the industry, following all the guidelines and all the rules. But that's what was not making me, express myself and do the things that I wanted to do. And that was what was stopping me from getting better results as well. At a certain point, I've just said, like, okay, if I have an opportunity here in terms of doing the job that I really wanted to do, but if I do it, or if I try, I'm just going to do it on my terms. If that means not, luckily, again, with the fact that I started from scratch, and even from a financial point of view, 12, 13 years ago, I was saying I was at zero is kind of a understatement, because I was, for the circumstances, I was in a not great situation. So I just had to start on my own, not go to uni, find a job straight away. I couldn't rely on anyone, and that's how I lived my 7-8 years before entering the football industry. And even in those years, that being myself and doing what things how I wanted to do them always led me to have better results. So after 2 or 3 years of being in football and pausing all the social media thing and not acting as I wanted to act and operate, I just thought, okay, if I really going to go for it, I'm going to do it my way. So I switched again, and I started to post a lot, and I started to share the journey. And all of a sudden, yeah, there might have been, the reaction at the beginning was like, oh, he's the guys that puts the videos, and is he really an agent, or is he a YouTuber? And of course, I knew that would have been a bit of a problem as well. So I've tried to find the right angle and switch and not be the classic YouTuber and go around with a camera, but still try to share my journey, and it really helped me, first of all, get to know people. I literally got into the industry because of YouTube, thanks to YouTube, because one of the first guys that helped me, Fabio Cordella, his name is, that does the wine with the legends, that helped me start working on the social media of legends. He got me at an event based on watching one of my YouTube videos and based on my social media stuff. So I can say I'm literally in football because of, well, thanks to YouTube, not only for YouTube, but definitely for my work, for what I was doing with social media. So then once I really switched and started to share my journey in football as well, before I was sharing my journey in London or with businesses, and I switched it to football. And that's when I started to make more contacts. Sporting directors started to message me because they seen the content. Players, families for like, people wanted to become an agent from America, Australia, all over the world. And that's where I've seen the power. And again, there wasn't an end goal, or I wasn't doing it to sign players or to get to meet people, but it was just something that I always liked and that always put a smile on my face. And recently I've signed one player, probably another one I will be signing, because the family's seen the YouTube videos. So that to me is a big...
That's amazing. I guess there's no better marketing than showing how you go about your daily work and how you treat your clients. It's the best marketing you could possibly do. And one of the first things we said, your reputation is almost everything in this industry.
Absolutely. I just noticed that in the past, and I think in the recent years, it changed a little bit for... don't want to only talk about myself, but for the other agents as well. There's still a little bit of a stigma, and there's still a little bit of, no, I'm not gonna post or say anything. But recently I've seen it with he's not here anymore, of course, but with Mino Raiola, where all of a sudden he went from he's always been loud on papers and journalists, but he never had socials, and then he created his own Instagram account, and he was using it just to kind of silence some fake rumors or fake news about that player is interested, and he would just go fake news. And he was using that as a tool. And even Mino, like at his age, he understood that the power of telling your story and being vocal about the story yourself, instead of there was for so many years this rule where everybody could say everything about you and your player, and you just need to be silent and not react to it. And I just don't buy that. I'm not okay with that. If I'm representing, of course, there's a way, there's a time, there's to say things, but still, that's how I helped a lot of players as well with their social media before becoming an agent, on reacting to things on, they used to see other players criticizing them on Sky Sports for some reason, and we used to decide if react to that or not. I think it's a great tool if you use it the right way.
So final question for me, Samu, because I can hear your phone ringing off the hook. So I appreciate you giving me the time you have. I know how busy you are, mate, and how much you travel. That's the final question. What skills do you think makes a good football agent?
Okay, so I think it depends on the agent you want to be, first of all, but I would say it's so many things in this industry and in this job that, I think a lot of people maybe don't think about how many skills you might help you. So one of them definitely languages, because again, you're operating, depends if you want to operate only in the UK or not, but speaking languages help you. I mean, I've dealt with players in France, Spain, Italy, in England, and knowing those 4 languages helped me a lot: Spanish, French, Italian. That is a good thing. And a question again parents can ask agents when they sign in with them. Sales is definitely an important one, and by sales I don't mean being the old style sales guys where they just try to sell you everything, but it's really understanding sales, understanding what's important for you in sales, how to how to market something, how to sell something, negotiation, because there will be a lot of negotiation, honesty, and I don't know if it's a skill or not, but it's very important, for an agent to really share with the player and with the family where they're at, what they're in it for, and even just money, like how is their money, is their financial situation, am I signing with an agent, for example, like we said before, is he only on commission? So in my view, he will be willing to do. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because he might be more hungry and maybe help you more, but as I said before, will he force a move because he really needs to make money on me and he hasn't got a salary? Is he one on salary and commission? Like all these type of questions, and that comes under the bracket of honesty and being transparent with a player. I think that's really important. Again, maybe it's not a skill, but it comes under the bracket of how to be a good agent for your player, I think. And then sales and negotiation is a big one, but mainly being a people, understanding people and trying to connect with people. I'm not necessarily that everybody needs to like you. You don't always need to be the nice guy, but if you want to negotiate, I feel at least if you're negotiating somebody's contract and if you're selling a player, or you really need to understand and listen. When you're in those rooms, when you are in those offices, you really need to understand what's their club view, what they're looking for, what they want, where they can get at, because everybody's kind of negotiating from their side as well. So everybody will be telling you but not telling you things, and if you are able to pick up on those things and pick up on those small details, or even just by an expression somebody has made, that sometimes can change a transfer, sometimes can change a salary, and not by a small margin but by a big margin. So you really want somebody there that's picking up on these things, that has done it, and that won't really crumble under the pressure of a club or a sporting director shouting at you. So there's so many things
psychologist
involved.
as well, so sales people person, psychologist as well, by the sound of it.
Absolutely, because again, and then I don't want to go too long with the podcast for yourself, but it's like people don't think about, sometimes there's relationships between, you have the relationship with the player, but then the player has a relationship with the partner, the dad, the mum, the cousin, the brother, and sometimes you unfortunately have to be that guy in between, and not isolating the player but making sure that everything around him is not working against him and is not slowing him down and is not creating more issues. So sometimes you're trying to help him on that side as well, and to help him you need to understand the other player, the other people around him. So it can be very complicated depending on how deep you want to go and what sort of work you want to do, the relationship you want to have with players. There's agents that are very transactional, and there's nothing bad in that. They just get a player that needs to move, no relationship, give me the mandate, I'll move you there. They don't even speak to the player because they speak to their agent maybe, and that's fine. In it to have more, to build up those relationships, to try to go on a journey with the player and stay with the player as long as possible. Then sometimes it doesn't work out and it's fine, but that's my kind of view within the skills of an agent.
Brilliant. Mate, it's been absolutely fascinating, and takes a new light on what you do. Obviously, you and I have spoken for a few years now, but now actually knowing why you don't answer the phone to me every single time and you have to call me back, it's becoming very obvious why that's the case. Mate, it's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of questions from our listeners that we'll have to do another episode, maybe later, maybe after the next transfer window, we'll have another chat about it. But mate, thank you so much. We've talked about your social channels. Please tell everyone how they can find you, what channels you're on, and what your handles.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's been brilliant. Sorry if I annoyed people talking a little bit too much about myself, but I'm very passionate about sharing my journey. So yeah, socials, I mean, it's Samuele _ Mura, MURA. Same thing for YouTube, Samuele Mura. Or if somebody puts in life as a football agent, that's the kind of not title that my YouTube channel has, and where I like to share a little bit behind the scenes of things that I just couldn't find online when I was trying to get more information about the industry. And so sharing about what happens behind a transfer or a loan move, or why we signed that player, how we signed him. I feel that I just wanted to share more info out there, so that's where they can find me.
Mate, your passion comes across, and maybe it's the talent in you, but your passion for football and doing things the right way comes across. And again, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. Thanks, guys.
This episode of Just Start is powered by Alloy Collectors. Football fans, it's time to level up your merch. Alloy Collectors transforms football jerseys into premium metal collectibles, because true fans deserve more than just another scarf or mug. Get 15% off with code JUSTSTART and grab a limited edition Just Start X Alloys tee. Plus, score a chance to attend a private exclusive event with some of the biggest names in UK football.